Hi, everybody. Carolyn here, holistic anxiety coach. And for those of you who do not know me, I help those suffering with anxiety to successfully break free from their anxious symptoms using a mind and body approach. So today, I want to explore a topic that's not always the most popular topic because let's face it, when we talk about taking personal responsibility for things, it can be touchy, right? But I do want to preface this by saying, before I get started, that a lot of times what I'm talking about here, we're not even really bringing awareness to. We're not conscious we're doing those things. So it's definitely not like a judgment thing on yourself or anything like that when you're listening to this, okay? So I want to explore today how often you may, again, for better or worse, make choices without noticing, and how bringing awareness to these choices can open the door for you to get more of the results that you really want in your life, okay? Most of us really have much more freedom than we tend to realize. And you may turn a blind eye, and again, oftentimes this isn't a conscious thing, but you might be turning a blind eye to the choices you really have out there out of habit, really, to protect yourself. And in protecting yourself, then you don't really have to accept full responsibility for your circumstances, okay? But again, like I said, I think most people aren't even consciously aware of all the choices that they have and make every day. So in every instant, you are free to behave really however you like, but it might seem as though circumstances have reduced your options down to maybe only one or two ways to move forward. Okay, so for example, it really seems like, you know, you have to get up at 7 every Monday because you have a job to get to and you have a schedule with your family, and that leaves no other possibility, right? So that's the way we perceive it, and we don't really think past that, right? But that's not really true. You can set your alarm for a different time, and you are free to explore how things are different when maybe you make a different choice. You don't have to do the things the way you've always done them. And that is true in every moment that you are alive. And let's just think, though, because you probably feel like you're on a pretty rigid track most of the time, but when you see this in a new light, it opens things up, because if you aren't getting the results you want in your life and you keep doing the same things, do you really think you're going to get new results? Probably not, right? I think hey Mary, I think my cat is at the door. I just want to make sure. I don't know where he's at. I'm just gonna leave that cracked open because I don't want him to have to get in here because the litter box is in here and not be able to. So I'm in my office today doing the live because I'm hardwired in. I had been having so many problems with my Wi-Fi being flaky on me, so here we are to make sure that we can get the best possible signal for you guys, right? So to continue on with this thought, there he is. He's the one that likes to go on the walks. Freedom, you know, your freedom may seem like something that can only make life easier. We always think, I mean, I know I did when I was so stuck in my anxiety, like, oh, if I could just be free to do this, that, and the other. But true freedom can actually be pretty overwhelming and scary. So if you think about it, again, you can take at any moment any one of infinite roads, if infinite choices, infinite paths into the future, and nothing less than the rest of your life kind of hinges on each choice that you're making. So it can actually be a huge relief to tell yourself that you actually have fewer options available than really you do, or maybe even no choice at all, and this is the way it has to be. I can't do that because of my anxiety, or this, that, or the other, right? And I've certainly been guilty of this quite a bit. I especially struggled with this when it came to overcoming my anxiety. For so long, I chose not to acknowledge the fact that my habits could make a difference in my anxiety levels. Like, it's not, again, like I'm going to say, again, it wasn't like a super conscious thing, but it was also something I kind of just didn't look at very closely, right? So I would think like, you see online different tips and techniques and this and that, and I would think, oh yeah, okay, who really has time for deep breathing throughout the day? If I even thought that far, I would kind of probably just dismiss it before I even really thought much about it, because I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm so overwhelmed with my anxiety. I've got all this, I already feel like, I'm just trying to keep my head above water with all I have going on in my life. It's just not happening, right? I didn't want to journal before bed. When I could like watch shows on my DVR, I mean, I had to catch up on my shows, right? I had to see, what's going on with the, Real Housewives or the Game of Thrones or, you know, a lot of different shows that I like to watch, right? So, which choice did I make? I'm not going to spend the time journaling when I have this really thing that I really, I think is super relaxing and really enjoyable, when really the journaling could have been much more beneficial to me. Again, I would think like, who has time for, yoga or meditation? And by the way, I kind of just told myself I feel too crappy to do those things. I felt miserable. I had a lot of physical symptoms. I didn't feel good. I didn't sleep well. I mean, I couldn't get up early because I didn't sleep well. So in my mind, I could not get up early because I had so many times I'm not sleeping well the night before. In my mind, I told myself, I can't cope. I can't add these extra things in. I don't want to spend money on help because it's not going to help. I would say that I'd tried therapy before a time or two, it didn't help. So probably wouldn't work anyway. I want to put more money towards something. I didn't want to go back to meds because I'd done that. I had side effects. I wanted to do it without meds. I thought it was very possible. But in that, so when I took out, I'm not going to pay for help. I'm not going to do meds. I'm not going to take the time or the energy to try to bring in other things that might help, and again, it's not like super conscious, but basically I didn't see any options. Okay. I was anxious and I allowed my anxiety to run my life. Of course, if I saw it that way, I wouldn't have made that choice, but that's what was going on, right? I did little to commit to change it because I had convinced myself that I had no available options, okay? And the thing is, I wasn't really fooling anyone but myself. And believe me, I didn't benefit from pretending I was powerless and didn't have choices, right? It kept me stuck. It kept me stuck for a very long time. But I did get that hit of relief when I would make a new excuse, okay? But that new excuse always kept me stuck. All of these kinds of behaviors are ways of just denying our own freedom. Okay, if we acknowledge all of our options, the obvious thing to do might be something that's really intimidating, really scary, really like, I don't think I can do that. Really, like, it's hard, right? To face that possibility is sometimes very hard. But once you've acknowledged that it isn't actually possible for you to do something, then you only have yourself to blame if you don't take action. I'm sorry, isn't actually impossible. I think I said possible, which would make no sense. Once you've acknowledged that, whatever you want isn't actually impossible, and it's not impossible for you to take action, some kind of action, then ultimately you only have yourself to blame if you don't take action. So that's what I'm talking about, how freedom can be kind of scary. Okay, and that's how I'm talking about, we kind of pretend, subconsciously even, we kind of pretend it isn't there, right? So this mindset, it's easier to notice in others than it is to notice in ourselves. Okay, you've probably known people who complain about their situations and insist that it's beyond their control when it obviously isn't, right? When it's really obvious to you, right? And then we call this a victim mentality, right? But it's hard to pick up on ourselves. you know, when it's going on with ourselves, right? I like, okay, so another example, because I worked in the past, I've worked with coaching and weight loss. And so I've known lots of people that have been very unhappy with their weight, and yet they would shoot down every possible way to lose the weight. You know, running's bad for their knees. A restrictive diet isn't healthy. Gyms are too expensive, okay? It was obvious these were not real barriers, but in their mind they were, okay? Or they were making them real because they did not want to have to make that choice. So by arguing that circumstances alone were responsible and that there wasn't anything they could do, you know, they made it okay with themselves, right? Basically their hands were tied, right? They convinced themselves that they just can't do the right thing because, you know, it's just not possible. When actually what's going on there is they won't. Okay. Like I said, I feel almost awkward talking about this topic because I feel like it's really touchy. But again, whenever you hear me in any of my lives, this is not about judgment. It's not about judgment because I've been there, number one. Number two, judging yourself is never going to make you feel better. But it's just to bring a new awareness, open your eyes to new possibilities. That's, without seeing new possibilities, you will stay stuck. You will always stay stuck. If someone can't come along and be like, oh, open your eyes to new possibilities. If you have no choices to make, oh Lord, you're just getting bombarded here. Without choices to make, then you will stay stuck, right? Okay, so sorry about that. I won't ring for long. I never answer the house phone because it's never anybody I need to talk to. It's always, you know, those calls. So whenever you feel a sense of this is just the way it is, you know, there is probably an opportunity there. There's probably a possibility to explore the freedom you really do have and to create a new path. Okay? Our lives are filled with imaginary lines. Bedtime is not a real thing. It's choice. Every time, hands down, it's choice. Going to work, it's a choice. Okay? Eating lunch is a choice. Letting ourselves down is a choice. Making a deadline is a choice. And missing it is a choice. As much as we'd like to believe each of those outcomes was inevitable all along, they are choices, each and every one, each and every time. Most of life doesn't happen to us as the weather does, but voluntary choices. All these little choices we're making all the time, okay? So as a certified health and life coach, this is one of the areas I work in. I'm an expert in this type of mindset work and habit change. And a huge step in moving forward toward the life you want is just, as I said, realizing you have options. And really a lot of options at that. A surprising amount of options that we don't notice. So often we just need some help seeing them, right?